Ah, jeez, I hate starting on a negative, but if I had to summarize my thoughts and feelings on Prey into one self-contained headline, I think it just doesn't work. I feel like it's a shame too when, at least in my opinion, I think a few more months of development could have made Prey the usurper to Bioshock we all wanted. Sadly, however, it kind of just falls short. Released back in May 2017, Arcane's new title actually shares its name with the 2006 game made by Human Head Studios, though has more in common from a gameplay perspective with its crucified sequel, Prey 2, judging from early gameplay videos. You'll be happy to know then that they are in fact completely unrelated. Like not at all. It kind of reminds me of that XCOM game set in the 50s that got scrubbed in favour of Enemy Unknown and then later for the Bureau. In fact, a conspiracy theorist might say that this has a hell of a lot to do with the cancelled XCOM. It reminds me a bit of a meal at a restaurant. All the pieces described on the menu and they look unique and delicious, but when you put it in your mouth it's sort of just But why is that? Well, let's dig in. And for the sake of clarity, I'm going to discuss the story near the end, just in case any of you are still on the fence about this one, because honestly, the gameplay is what sits wrong with me. So, from the outset, Arcane really haven't fallen far from the tree with this one. Anyone familiar with the Dishonored series, or who has a passing interest in the Dishonored series, or who has...
It's a lot like Dishonored!
Instead of outsider powers, we have Typhon abilities. Instead of equipment upgrades, we have neuromods and weapon kits. Instead of a useful knife, we have this, reference to the thing, you know, the thing from the thing. You know the one. Here's a little game for you. Take a shot every time I reference the Shock series. I'll even keep a tab for you. Get the bottle. You can jump, you can slide, you can fall, and you can glide. You can blink. I mean, phantom shift across gaps, and when you get bored, you can turn into a rat. A cut. And roll to decaffeinated victory. And while I may kick and prod it for copying its classmate, this honestly is quite great, actually. Something I think Prey does a really ruddy good job of is getting you to think outside the box when it comes to combat, and consider every element of the space you're in. A trait that carries into the narrative, which we'll get to later. Between the level design, the player's arsenal, and the titular Typhon classes, this really doesn't play like a conventional shooter. Much like Bioshock, the actual gunplay is more a means of participating in a fight than straight up winning one. It's unlikely that anyone will get through this game guns blazing, since the only traditional weapons are a silenced pistol so ineffective you might as well be throwing paper aeroplanes at the enemies, and a shotgun so powerful, yet criminally understocked that every pump of the forend feels like you're firing your college savings and all your family dog out of the barrel. Now, you may be wondering, if that's all you've got in the way of weaponry, then how the hell else are you supposed to deal with enemies? Well, again, Prey isn't about traditional combat. The majority of the weapons are more like tools, not in the Dead Space sense, but in the Gary's mod sense. The glue gun, one of the early game weapons, blasts Incredibles gel, Incredigel, that solidify on impact and become physical objects in the game space. One of the very first things this gets you thinking about is how free you are to navigate Talos 1, as long as you've got ammo. Pretty cool, no? If I wanted to, say for example, get up on a platform, I could, instead of climbing up like a square, simply build my own staircase. It also serves as a stun gun of sorts to the bots and baddies haunting the halls, as, given enough fire, an enemy can be petrified in place for a time. However, the rest of the weapons not only don't explore the creative ways to kill your foes, but are actually very useless. The stun gun comes close to being handy, especially against the operators floating around, but even when upgraded, it struggles to do more than fart electric dreams. The Q-beam explodes enemies, but takes so long to do so that you will have in fact divorced that brand spanking new health bar by the time you make the baddies go boom. There's, and when I first saw this I did think it was a joke, a toy crossbow that can be used to interact with environmental objects, and that's it. Those are your guns. There are also some grenades like the Disruptor and the Null Wave Emitter that stun lock enemies temporarily, and my personal love, the Recycler Charge that bin mends their butts into delicious, adorable little Lego bricks. Do you notice the problem here? There are only 3 weapons in your arsenal that do an effective amount of damage, one of which is only a few steps above a wiffle ball bat, and the other 2 require an ever-depleting and an already minute amount of ammunition. Now, the observant people among you might point out that most games have guns that work off of ammo, that being our whole gun thing. Most get around it by either littering the battlefield with weapons you can swap to, or by having a way to replenish your stocks bi-regularly. Yes, you at the back with your hand up, what is it? Well, it's just that a lot of survival horror games use limited resources to build up tension. Oh, you silly child. Prey isn't a... Oh no. Oh, no. Bioshock's been chatting it up again. Now, I don't know about you, but the Ken Levine twist machine lost a lot of the pretense of survival horror once you could, I don't know, Elsa people to death. And even then, Bioshock allowed you to respawn rather than reload, meaning that even when the ammo was scarce, you could still chip away, as boring as that was, at the wall of progress, one life at a time. Didn't you mention recycling charges earlier? Why, yes I did. You see, Prey's economy revolves around the constant recycling of content. I meant items that allow you to fabricate key items provided you have the blueprint. Again, a friggin' cool idea, executed about as well as the Dragonborn was. Recycler charges do a good job of feeding that mechanic into the combat, which is always a tasty treat, rather than just a hog-wild scavenging of the area post-massacre. But in reality though, you'll probably find yourself manufacturing either ammo or neuromods the most, and this is when the game starts to get a bit Ubisofty in that the microeconomy starts to dictate how you play. For example, need to manufacture some ammo? Why not increase your recycling efficiency? How do you do that? You need neuromods. How do you find neuromods? They're usually hidden in areas requiring a specific skill guarded behind enemies, meaning you need ammo and neuromods to get ammo. And neuromods, can you see the well here? I quickly cottoned on to the fact that I needed some more permanent ways to do damage, and again, Prey offered some creative solutions. Much like Bioshock, you can hack turrets or turn environmental elements to your advantage. Now, in fairness, one of my favourite encounters in the whole game was when I ran into a phantom and had little to no ammo, big change there, before noticing the distinct red pipes snaking around the station's bulkheads. Quick smack on his bum, a bang on the old pipes later, and I had a Kentucky Fried Typhon. Smoky. And that was a genuine moment of player-driven, organic, environmental combat that made me feel well clever. And when Prey has these moments, it shines. Need to get into a security booth? Why not roll through the grate as a cup? Maybe you should shoot the unlock button with your Nerf gun, hack the door, or maybe just find the key code, and those are just the obvious ones. It's a sandbox with an incredible amount of creativity baked into it, like a tray of delicious Velvet Game cupcakes. But, and here is why I'm being really harsh, around about the 2/3 mark, I ran out of ammo. Completely. No bullets, no glue, no recyclers. Hell, I was lucky that there were those robots floating around who'd goose me with juice with my mighty mind powers. And that was on easy. I started on hard, but the punishment the Typhon can withstand is just unfair. Now, thanks to my clairvoyance, foreseeing such an instance might occur, I invested my powers into leverage early, and I spent most of the runtime face-first against a filing cabinet that I'd hurl at my enemies like a Mac cannon thing, so I was just flinched. A foolproof method that I strongly recommend. As funny as that is, it starts to get very annoying very quickly, especially when multiple enemies with hard-to-avoid projectiles are lurking. Now, there are the Typhon powers, which are hit and miss in my experience. Melting faces and wrecking spaces never ceases to feel awesome. A limited pool with which to draw from that doesn't regenerate. Dishonored's recharge system would have fit in nicely here, allowing you to recharge to full if you held off for long enough. And maybe, just maybe, this constant feeling of being on the back foot could be forgiven if the game didn't just love killing you, because it does. It will kill you over and over and over and over, then it won't, then it will, often without warning. And dear Arcane, I swear to God, whoever thought that exposed electricity panels were a good idea needs to sit on the naughty step, because there is nothing fun about barely surviving a close encounter just to get tased to death. Frustration turns to apathy as you are shot and clawed and electrocuted and blown up, gravity rushed, eaten and otherwise murdered time after time. Every death, a tug at your thread, unraveling your mind until you eventually say, heck no, not this time, I need crisps and a hug. Scope for player creativity is applaudable, but my god, a few more months of balancing was needed. The enemy classes in the game are varied as well, and none really fight like your standard Pooper Trooper. However, the game prolapses itself by just sapping all the fun out of their encounters. Every enemy has a tell that needs to be learned, and you know what? That's cool. Learning to fight them is great. It makes the Typhon interesting. It changes up your strategies, just peachy, but guess what? Each one suffers the same problem. Killing them expends some sort of vital resources that can't be gotten back easily, and whilst they can infinitely attack you, you're gonna come up dry and have to resort to the IKEA catalogue for your offensive measures. Every enemy kills you in just the most annoying way. Mimics hide and jump out at you, cool, but they're also fast and hard to hit consistently, meaning you'll probably have to glue them to the floor first. Phantoms are elemental based and spam their respective super the day at you, meaning that you either fire from a distance or you use your precious powers. Cystoids amass and nibble you to death. Poltergeists hide and seek you until they hilariously throw you into the air and are invisible while they do so. Weavers exist. Technopaths disable your electric weapons. 3 out of 7 of them. Telepaths fart mind rays at you and possess the boys and girls shambling about Talos 1, which I'm pretty sure are just reskinned Weepers with extra hot sauce. I was relieved when the nightmare would rear its head, because at least that thing is too wide to escape my furniture stoning. The game doesn't feel challenging, it feels frustrating, balancing every moment of creativity with 5 nearly unavoidable deaths. You're playing it wrong. Yeah, maybe, but guess what? The game said, play how you like, so I did. Don't even bother trying to fight in zero gravity sections. It's like trying to hit a pinhead with a pea shooter inside a washing machine on fire. It smells. The mechanical enemies can at least be shut down remotely or turned to your side. Boy, oh boy. Once Dahl shows up and 3D prints about 10 billion of them to hunt you through the halls, have fun breaking the encryption under pressure. It's all just too much. The title Prey then feels kind of appropriate since you're never not in something's crosshairs. Sure, well done, bravo. But I'm trying very hard to love you, Prey, because you're cool and you're interesting and your hair smells nice. But damn, you're making it really bloody hard. So that, I think, is why the combat doesn't work. The core mechanic just seems kind of broken a bit, which is a shame because outside of that I think it does a bloody lovely job of following in the wake of its betters. Music has always been a fascination of mine when it comes to games, as the right score can turn a simple engagement into an atmospheric bloodlet draining you emotionally. We've been waiting for you. Go on.
Hey there.
Oh jeez. Oh god.
You alright, Matt?
Yeah, no, I'm good, yeah. Just I was watching Last of Us stuff.
Okay.
Mick Gordon has tickled me in all the right places with a self-described spaghetti western mixed in with synth art. So scrumptious. From the haunting ambience of no gravity to the eerie curiosity of December and January, it drips sweet with retro, the minimalist strums of an electric guitar grounding this bizarre reality in an oddly homely vibe. There's nothing quite like seeing the sunset on a faraway Earth and just hearing the OST rear its head. Phones. What can I say? I'm a sucker for a sexy score. The art design is also pretty strong, though nothing that's gonna blow your space boots off. The art deco of the station is very reminiscent of certain other games I can't stop talking about, and although a cool take on it given the alternate reality the story takes place in, there's only so many fine wood floors and chunky magnetic tape drives I can hurl before I start to long for something with a different spin. Contextually, the fact that Talos 1 is now a private facility I think works wonders at hiding the very practical looking underbelly of the station. The spyglass technology is also really cool, though few escaped my shattering ways.
I like how they use the projection as well. It's used for a couple of puzzles, but for the most part, it's just a really nice little effect.
To stop hitting the game with a criticism bat and instead give it lovely kisses, the level design here is, oh my god, so good. Every part of Talos 1 fits together, made very apparent by the moonwalk I strongly recommend you take. It works wonders for your hips. I hesitate to call it Metroidvania because I don't know what those words mean, but it's kind of a testament to the level designers and the artists that they managed to fit all these parts together so
It's
well.
layers within layers, depth within depth.
I've heard a few people criticise the fact that the game isn't seamless in its level transitions, and it would kind of be nice to move through the station using new tunnels and pathways opened up by the player's exploration, like the original 2 Dead Rising games. But for now, the guts, the space jam, and the service elevator are pretty great. It really does feel like every person mentioned in the many audio logs scattered throughout was an individual, be that from their complex relationships with other characters and story arcs, their detailed living quarters, or even just the fact that you can find their bodies in the station logs. Subtle but effective. What about that story then? Well, if this video weren't long enough already. So, excluding the copious amounts of lore that cribs so close to Fallout that I think Bethesda can tell which of its children is taking cliff notes from the other, the basic plot goes a little something like this.
You, yes you, Morgan you, it's true. Wake up one day near San Fran Bay, an apartment's clean and new. Go to the roof, the pilot's aloof. You fly through the city, land, what a pity. Go see some guy who's got you in the thighs and nuggets. Turns out he's got the same eye.
chill up. Alex puts you to testing. The tutorial's quite jesting, but soon things go all awry.
Wake up again the same day, things are not as they seem, mechanic's got nothing to say, and the windows are right through screens. Turns out you're in Kevin Spacey, and you forgot because you're a Tannhausen. Disease of the mind that leads you to find everything's gone kinda crazy. A robot of you, that is Morgan you, not you, so Shu, has thought that you knew with the glass you look through that the station must go BANG! Then nothing really happens for ages. You're doing menial tasks, but in stages. You occasionally find some moral aside, but in general the story's in cages. Turns out, however, and if you're willing to scrounge, intrigue and corruption and choices abound. Questions need answers, and the performance enhancers are doing funny things to the sound. Eventually you get to the end, and a giant octopus descends from a portal to Zen with the Typhon defense. Now upon your decision it all depends. Destroy or nullify, be a mean or a nice guy. Sacrifice yourself or escape with your health. Guess what? Doesn't matter. Goodbye. Only kidding. Turns out you've been watched the whole time, which you could have guessed by this rhyme. If you went to the shuttle and heard your brother's rebuttal, no matter, let's judge, let go of your grudge, or murder them back to Helheim. Hey, look, an in-joke. I think it's solid. I think the most impressive thing, however, is just how much control the player has over the outcome without really knowing it. If you're the Manhattan Project kind of scientist and you decide to blow up your robot January on sight, then you'd be guided by another to an alternate ending that, yeah, kind of spoils the twist. However, let's be honest, I think we all kind of knew that there was something deeper going on. Not that the game makes that incredibly obvious. The survivors in the cargo hold, for example, can be left to be slaughtered if you're just too cool for school, provided that you can get through the door locking you in, which is the right kind of moral choice, one that has multiple implications. On the one hand, sure, yeah, it's kind of evil to senselessly let these innocent people die a bloody death, but at the same time, you are planning to blow the station up anyway. And at this point, there was no way of getting them out safely, so it's maybe a little kind just to end it for them now, then and there, rather than prolonging their dwindling hope. I can see how different perspectives on the situation would really change the way you think about it. I found that I was very skeptical of almost everyone who wanted me to actually do something for them, but was very forgiving of the people out for themselves. I did, however, kind of kill a major NPC by accident when I tried to loot her corpse and glued her face to the wall. I'm no saint, okay? The really interesting part of the story, I think, is how you choose to interpret the ending. Oh, yeah, by the way, you're a Typhon all along, which only narrowly avoids that it was all a dream school of awful writing. Turns out Alex has been testing you all along to see if you're empathetic enough to forge an alliance between the Typhon and the humans after the alien conquest of Earth. But they've been testing on the Typhon this whole time, harvesting them for their exotic materials and keeping them caged. So the humans are kind of the bad guys then? Or at least they're not unequivocally good. The reason I like this so much is the layers to it. Every decision in the game is built in terms of practicality and morality rather than just good or evil. Is it not kind of sinister to wipe a guy's memory because you need his help piloting a shuttle? Maybe I'm giving it more respect than it deserves, but if there's one thing I feel safe in calling Prey 2017, besides pointlessly named, is intelligent. There is so much genuine effort and thought pumping through this game's veins that it can't help but come off as endearing despite the stuff I personally think breaks the game. Perhaps if instead of Prey it had been called Neuroshock, it would have garnered that thinking man shooter crowd at launch. Who knows? But from where I'm standing, there's a well-implemented though somewhat flat narrative standing hand in hand with a severely misbalanced set of core mechanics that just... Do you know how disappointing it is that I have to sit here and bully this game for most of the video? I'd like to sit and discuss the greyness of the story, or how impressive the branching narrative paths are. I'm not bitter, okay? Or the creative strides the game represents in the industry. Not cry unfair at a game I was just seriously let down by. It's nearly great. Nearly. But if I can offer some actual critical feedback, I'd like to. That being a productive thing for people to do. Okay, here we go. Oh, and of course, these are just my opinions, you know. Yeah. So at the moment, I think the main flaw with the game is that no matter what, you are expending an incredible amount of very finite resources just to navigate the station, with every repeat walkthrough of that area dwindling that supply ever further down. And whilst I'm a big fan of the hidden extras and how that encourages you to explore, it would be nice to maybe have something like Bioshock Infinite, curveball, Elizabeth and her bag of healing potions to keep restocking you. How about an activatable collection operator that has to be found on each stage, but who will gather resources for you over time, like in Dead Space 3, procedurally generating them rather than taking them from the actual game space, which not only encourages you to revisit the area to replenish, but also makes later passes through a lot less daunting. Again, this game is not scary. Don't use survival horror systems in it. It just gets frustrating. For the love of David, please let us upgrade the wrench. Please, please. I'm not expecting it to be a Warhammer, but maybe just some modifiers like the suit chipsets, like a 1 in 5 chance to emit electrical damage, or just something like that. In general, I think the game really needs a bigger arsenal, but the wrench in particular being the one weapon you can swing without detracting from a limited pool means it has to be stronger. A bigger arsenal! And this is the trick. Now, I know that when I mention crafting systems, we all do a big sad, but here's the thing.
Which, if video games have taught me anything, means we can pretty much create crazy things. Maybe you can carry up to 2 custom guns which don't work like traditional firearms and instead tend to your playstyle, but must be assembled from pieces around the ship. A flamethrower is an obvious choice, especially as you could take advantage of those fuel lines around the station to refill, possibly adding that layer of tension between the long-term sustainability of replenishing and the situational advantage of having fire. Half-Life's gravity gun would also fit in nicely, but there is a telekinesis power, so we'll let that one off with a warning. How about a gun that shoots hacking darts, or a gun that directs gravity temporarily, or who doesn't want a gun with a recycling beam? These are obviously awful and off the top of my head, but I think having an arsenal that lends to your playstyle would go a long way towards making encounters less daunting. And wait, I've got another one! What about a gun that shoots sharks? Please, someone, I just want to shoot sharks at people again. More controllable environmental traps. Now, I'm sure someone will say that the pylons are effective against the player and the NPC, but nah, don't give me that. They're useless, and you know it. Just let me hack the damn thing with an IFF, okay? On the subject of traps, why can't we shoot out the windows on Talos 1? I'm sure it's probably an issue that players are going to get sucked out and then they'd have to make the whole world seamless, but why not do the Dead Space thing of just having airlocks that temporarily suck stuff out and either kill you or seal within a few seconds? And my final piece of criticism, and this may be a stretch, I know, but can we please just get rid of the cystoids? All they do is give you grape shot exploding, screen-filling pain until you die to death. It's not fun, it's not strategic, it just wastes ammo, and I hate them because they smell. Look at me, I did a constructive. But in honesty, Arcane made something in Prey that I think is genuinely on the precipice of greatness. With a little bit more time for balancing and maybe a few more months to add in extra features that flesh out the combat, you'd have a game that championed mechanics as player expression, all of which fed back into a morality system deeper than its predecessors and which wove that creativity into the branching narrative. A game where story was uncovered rather than spoon-fed, where every recording, note, and piece of environmental storytelling had an almost Dark Souls level of player-driven purpose. Perhaps I'm just being bitter, but honestly, Arcane, thank you for all the time and energy spent on creating this flawed gem. BioShock would be proud.
Oh, hi there. This definitely wasn't tacked on at the last minute because this video took a lot longer to make than I thought it would because of reasons. I did try, I'm sorry, but I've also included links to some really good reviews I saw of it and some good analysis stuff by Joseph Anderson and Errant Signal because they're really good at this stuff and they actually know what they're talking about, so go give them a big kiss on the face. Thank you.
Tartarus, the prophets have betrayed us.